Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session at the World Expo. Thank you for coming. We have an extremely exciting and packed schedule for you for the next hour and 15 minutes. We've got a fantastic range of speakers. The focus of this session is about technologies that we can use in terms of harvesting increasing stocks of data, and then seeing how we can help to improve specific services and outcomes in cities. So without further delay, given our time constraint, we've got, I think, 13 speakers in total, 4 minutes each, and then hopefully if we've time at the end, we can take a couple of questions for the audience. So our first speaker is Mr. Philippe Poullain. Philippe is with the Affinity Network. He's co-founder based in Canada, and he's a French entrepreneur. He's going to talk to you about data and services in cities.
So hello everyone. So today I'm going to talk about affinities for smart cities. This is a quote that we like a lot, is that men build too much wall and they rather build bridges. So that's what we try to do. What is smart to us? It means that a city must be intelligent and listen to people in real time, and being able to generate some opportunities for their citizens. It's also to link people, commerce, service, and physical places all together. Smart is to use a network of apps using the same communication protocol to get the right app at the right place at the right time. Smart to us is also to link virtual and physical world with a good-minded internet. Affinity approach is a little bit different because we don't focus on big data. Because big data, you need to be very well organized to be able to get the data or to crunch it, and it's time consuming. So we rather prefer the value of the real-time ones. And all solutions are normally based on GPS. It's more a tracking system when we should listen to what people have to say and want and give back their media power, in fact. And what if we could generate revenues for city using their air rather than generate expenses with a single communication tool? So we have a patent on it. And with Affinity, as you see, a physical space become virtual. It would recognize each visitor and would adapt to his multiple profile, because you see that there is a diffuse profile here, so everybody can say who they are and what they want. So there is also a search profile, and depending on that, in the space you are in, you would receive contextual information that you can share with all the different medias through the different spaces that you can have in the different city, as well as web access, and communicate, advertise, search, and have info and even chat with other people depending where they are. So it can be off-site or automatically as you enter into a place you would have the right app that come to you. You can have also a diary and filter the affinities and see where are the places, and if you just click on it you would have the app of the place that would come to you. And you can have it also in a diary system, so you can see how many people are in such and such places and whether it's virtually or physically in all areas. So everybody would use the same protocol of communication with a frame where you have services. So that's the contextual app store that you can have into a place. So where we can leave different services. So for example, if it's an hotel, we can leave an app for the restaurant, we can leave an app for taxi, for Uber, maybe a virtual shop for Louis Vuitton and so on. In promotion, we have also inside an online e-commerce system. We can get information. You can upload video and have it shown in the multimedia place. You can have messages and evaluation. If you are not happy with someone or with something, then the place has to find the way to get you back on track. And VIP is that you like to receive information about that place. So if you have any more questions, just let me know afterwards.
Thank you for that, Philippe. Our next speaker is Mitzi László. Mitzi is a business developer with MapThat, and she is now going to talk to us about her example.
Hello, everyone. Hello. So things change, even between applying to do a presentation and doing it. So I speak from experience. This team, MapThat, has produced a product but gotten distracted in recent months. So I'm going to tell you the story of how this was born, what happened, and what worked and what didn't work. It was born in an environmental consultancy. It's about 25 years old, and we did sampling. So you'd go out into the field, this is what it looks like, with a clipboard and write things down, and then you'd go home and into the office and put it in an Excel spreadsheet. This is the deal. And it still is in a lot of places. I worked for the WHO 3 years ago, and this was still the way it worked. 8 years ago, we produced Odor Map, which was real-time mapping of smell. So people could smell things, text something. This was usually for a sort of industrial smell, factories, pig farms, that kind of thing. You could see where it was happening. This was for city councils. So we sold this. That worked. That's the first thing. It sold. The second thing, though, is that the city council would buy it and promote it. Then they would and say, like, look, we're a smart city. But then often they would go hush hush, and a few months later they say, look, we've got no complaints. So it really wasn't what we were going for. We were trying to get communication. I mean, it was a functioning business, but we were trying to get communication between citizens and city councils, governments. This dialogue was what was interesting. This is an installation of a giant ear where you can come and whisper your desires to the council, and it plays it later in the exhibition, and the complaints that are enjoyed are made louder, and the ones that are not enjoyed are composted into music. So this is what we were trying to achieve, but in a more practical solution, not just in an exhibition. Odor Map was top-down. It was something we sold to businesses and city councils. We wanted to go bottom-up, so we made MapThat. MapThat was linked to Twitter, and you could search any trend and see how it came up in real time. So that was working, and the third issue was, how do you get users to use your site? I mean, you've got this great software, but it really depends on everybody engaging. And mapthat.com, nobody's heard of it. How do you get users to your site? That was a real issue. The fourth issue is, so great, you've got some users, but how do they pay? Nobody's interested in paying for internet services. And the business model from bottom-up business models is quite tricky. And if you look at functioning models like Twitter, what you see is it's a faith-based economy where, because you have many users, you attract a lot of money, but there's no transaction. So it's basically religion. So that's the story. That's what worked, what didn't work. If you have any answers, please do let me know.
Great, thank you for that, Mitzi. Our next speaker, we have David Ruana, who is product manager with SafeLayer Secure Communications. David.
Okay. Good morning. This is the most famous Postman in the world, especially for the ones who have kids at home. So, but the Postman is known, is loved in his village. Everyone knows him, he knows everyone. But this is not the usual case in big cities. So when your interphone rings, even if you can see the person on a screen, you're not sure if you have to let them in. So you could be letting in someone who wants to case the flats in a building, and when they are in, you don't know how long they will stay. So I recently heard an interview with a chief of policeman on safety recommendations. And apparently one of the most important things is to strengthen the door and make sure that all the residents keep it closed. So you can add an electromechanical lock for make it crowbar proof. You can do a lot of things, but you still need to let the real postman and woman get to the mailboxes. So how we are going to identify them? So let me introduce an ideal solution for a smart city. It involves in incorporating electronic NFC system in the interphone, and the postman installs a mobile identity in the smartphone so that the interphone can recognize him. So every time that the postman needs to log into a door, open a door, he will do it by himself. You don't need to open, just the postman will tap on the interphone. So on the technical side, the solution is based on digital certificates. So for a postman being issued a certificate, he has to be recognized by the issuing authority. And those certificates can be valid for years, and they can be revoked whenever the postman stops working for the company. So on the other hand, we have also short-term certificates, which the idea is that every postman will have as many short-term certificates as cities or districts that he has to deliver mail in. And besides the benefits that I mentioned, there's a lot of data generated in a mobile ID solution. So this data can be analyzed for smart cities. For example, other public servants can open many other doors in council buildings, for example. And if these doors are connected to the internet, all this data can be logged into a database in the cloud. Or if the doors don't have an internet connection, they can store the data in the mobile phone, and at the end of the day, it can be consolidated in the cloud. So all this data can be finally analyzed. So it's been a pleasure, so please get in touch for any other comments. Thank you.
Thank you for that, David. And our next speaker, we have Pasquale Oriol, and Pasquale is a director with IQS Tech Factory here in Barcelona.
Good morning, everyone. It seems that the technicians are already selecting this. No. Okay. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Well, I know that one already, so. No, yeah. All right. Well, good morning. I came here today to mainly deliver a message, and the message is that clean tech is changing. Clean tech as an industry, it's evolving. Clean tech is an industry that it's been traditionally characterized by being technology-based, and we're talking mainly about hardware. We talk about solar panels and wind generators. It's an industry that it's been characterized by being capital-intensive. Lots of money is required to develop these technologies, and also lots of time is needed to develop these technologies. And finally, the success of clean tech, it's mainly dependent on government decisions. It will be a legal framework which will define if a technology is successful in the market, yes or no. Today's challenges in clean tech have nothing to do with technological development, are not about fundamental science. They're about complex financing schemes and incentives. They're about the failure to communicate environmental data to consumers, and about poor sales channels. All this is changing, and is changing thanks to the digitalization of clean tech. In fact, many opportunities await in the digitalization of green. And this is what we call the clean web. Clean web is a subcategory of clean tech that is born out of the intersection of three well-established and well-developed industries. The first one is clean tech, that it's all about doing an efficient use of resources. It's about the Internet of Things, which is about generating data and using network approaches, and about collaborative consumption of a sharing economy, which is about peer-to-peer interactions and mainly about restructuring existing markets. In short, we can say that clean web is about using ICT for resource efficiency. As such, the main elements of clean web are that ICT is at the core rather than hardware. They have a focus on resource efficiency. We are talking about companies here. So they have a well-established, well-defined business model, and those companies are highly scalable. When we compare clean web with traditional clean tech, the advantages are obvious. Its development is much more agile. It requires very low amounts of money when compared to traditional clean tech. The risk is also much lower, and they are highly scalable. Here are some examples of clean web companies today. That's an evolution of clean tech. We have Nest, the smart thermostat that uses sensors to learn and make an efficient use of energy at home. Mosaic is using crowdfunding in order to promote solar projects. Quick Solar is using satellite images in order to very quickly develop new solar projects. Recycle Bank is giving rewards to those that do recycling. Relay Rides is about peer-to-peer car rental, and O-Power is making the energy information meaningful and actionable for users. All these companies without ICT wouldn't be possible today. We have identified some business models around clean web, and due to the time, I invite you, if you want to learn more, we have a booklet available, free to download, and you can access an open source database of over 250 companies summarizing this new movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Pasquale, and we're on time so far, so good. Next up, we have Victor Martinez del Rey, and Victor is Director of Territory and Urban Quality in Sant Cugat del Valles Municipality. Forgive my Spanish pronunciation there.
No, I don't know. Hello, good morning. I'm trying to explain you our project in Sant Cugat del Vallès. It's about resilience. Sant Cugat del Vallès, for those of you that don't know where is Sant Cugat is a medium-sized city. It's located just outside of Barcelona. It's just behind the mountain you can see when you go out of the venue of this Congress. We have 88,000 inhabitants. We're a medium-sized city, as I've told you, and Sant Cugat has been one of the first cities in Catalonia and in Spain that has implemented criteria Smart City in our services. With this criteria, we have been able to reduce the energy consumption in public buildings and the street lighting more than 30%. We have been able also to reduce the light pollution more than 78%. And related to the waste collection and the street cleaning, we have implemented a continuous improvement process that with that we have increased the rate recycling up to 40%, and we have reduced the cost of the service, providing better service for the citizens. Last year, we decided that we wanted to make a step forward, and we decided that Sant Cugat wanted to become a resilient city. Why a resilient city? Because we think that the more resilient a city is, the more a smart city is, and vice versa. So for us, it's important to become a resilient city. And when we wanted to make this step, we made a public tender, and we hired the services of Optifits, which is a startup from IQS University in Barcelona. And with them, we are trying to implement the urban resilience management. When we are thinking about resilience management, we have to change the way we think and the way we consider the city, because we must consider the city as a system of systems that are interconnected between each other, and we have to take into account that one impact in one of them affects in some measure to the other systems. We also have to change the way we are used to manage the city. We have to change to a cross-functional management. We have to find also synergies between all the collaborators. We have to find a new way of work. We must to work as a team, not individually. And with that, we will be able to improve the quality of life of our citizens. We will be able to guarantee the continuity of the services, because this is one of the goals of the city when we have an impact in the city. And we want to improve the efficiency of the cities. What have we already done up to now? We have made the assessment of infrastructures and services in Sant Cugat. We have analyzed the impact of the cities, the more feasible impacts in the cities. We have analyzed the service dependence, the domino effects, the responder efficiency, and redundant networks. How have we done it? We have made the assessment with an online tool, which name is Hasur, that you can get a lot of information about this tool online, because it's a very intuitive tool and it's very easy to get used to it. And you will find some courses and some information online. We have analyzed more than 50 services in Sant Cugat and more than 120 infrastructures involving 50 stakeholders, both internal and external. And we have made that organizing a lot of workshops just to know and just to have a cross view of the city. And we have identified a lot of improvement projects. I think I don't have much time. Here you can see a sample of the relationship between the different services in Sant Cugat. Sometimes when we think about a blackout, we don't think that there are a lot of services that are affected by that. You can see here that when we have a blackout, even the street of the clinic is affected by that, because we need water for the machines. We have to fulfill the machines with water, and we need pumps to fulfill the water. If we don't have electricity, we can't fulfill the machines. That's only a sample. Sorry, I think I don't. The second step of the project is, from now on, we want to implement our resilient office in Sant Cugat. This resilient office will be able to monitor the parameters that indicate the state of the city. We will be able to display the real situation of the city in time. We must do the resilience management tables to be updated every year, because the city is changing every moment. So we don't have, we need to be changed that. We need to update the resilience management of the city, otherwise it won't be succeed. And one of the most important things, I think, is that we have to create different scenarios, simulating different impacts on different services, because when we have an impact in the city, it's very important to act as quickly as possible and to be the most successful possible. So for us, it's important to train, and the more we train, the more successful we will be. And that's it. I hope that next year we are here explaining how our office is working. And if you have any question, please don't hesitate and do it later. Thank you.
Great, another great range of interesting examples here, just to show the variation of how, you know, all of these, the advances in technology and availability of data, the practical uses to which they can be put. And next up we have Stefano Landl. Stefano is Vice President in SenseCity Systems, and he's up next. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I think it's already 12 o'clock, so I'll say good afternoon. So let me, what I'll try to do is, instead of covering what our company does as far as a product, but really kind of give you some of the learnings that we have taken and how we believe it is important to gather data, urban data. So just to set the context to who we are, so you know, so we are a Silicon Valley-based company. We've been around for about since 2010. And we are a very strong company around lighting, and I'll explain you around the lighting system, and in particular how we closely collaborate with some of the key partners that we have. So someone quoted earlier, I think quotes are extremely important, and one that I like to use is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. This was actually a quote from Mayor Bloomberg of New York. I think it described the essence on what we believe is extremely important today, which is you have to be able to gather real-time data about what goes on in the city. Because unless you have that data, it's going to be very challenging for you to be able to manage the city. And at the end of the day, the key is going to be how are you going to more effectively gather that data. So one of the things that we have experienced and noticed within cities is that there's many different ways that you can gather data. But every single time, it is a silo solution, different platform, different network, and that creates a lot of challenges in terms of, you know, the cost of trenching, putting new wires. And we just believe that the right way, the right approach is to really build a simpler, optimized one platform that can deliver different services. And let me kind of describe what has been our approach. If you look at it, there is about 4 billion high-wattage lights in the world. This is a perfect asset to deploy a sensoring system, because sooner or later, someone will go up in that pole and change that light to an LED. And if you can leverage that momentum to go up there and not just, you know, put an LED, which is extremely important because you're going to reduce your costs. But how are you going to then leverage that asset to deploy a sensoring platform? So what we believe is that the lighting infrastructure in a city is the ideal platform, because not only, again, there will be a truck going there sooner or later to change the LED, but at the end of the day, where you have light, you have power. And if you have power, you don't need to run any wires. Wherever you have light, you have probably some activity. So there's something that you want to monitor at that point. So there's many benefits to leverage, you know, the lighting infrastructure. And that kind of brings me to the second point. By doing this, by deploying, using the lighting infrastructure, now you have one platform and multiple services. And that's what enables you to look into parking analytics, traffic analytics, using, you know, video imaging, as well as, you know, lighting control, security, and so on. And key, most important is, great, you gather the data. If you want to build an ecosystem of partners that are actually going to be leveraging the data, that's even more important, because at the end of the day, you want to be able, through an open platform with open APIs, to get the data out there so people can actually build a parking app, a traffic app, a security app. So last but not least, when you build an IoT platform, you can't do it on your own. You know, particularly in the case of a lighting sensory platform, you have lighting manufacturers. You have the network, you have the sensors, you have where you gather the data, you have the developer who are going to be able to develop the app. So you need an ecosystem, and you can't do it on alone. So we believe in partnership. That's why I mentioned the partnership, you know, with Cisco, and we are strongly partnering with many lighting manufacturers there, from, you know, Acuity and many others. And I welcome anyone, if you're interested, come and see the actual demo, the product that we are selling today at the Cisco booth. Or if you don't have time, just feel free to look us on the web. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Stefano. Next up, we have Laurie Steele. Laurie is CEO of Everyone Counts. Laurie.
They did it for me. This is great. So I'm here to evangelize. I'm trying to figure out the computer first. I'm here to evangelize for the digitization of what I believe to be one of the most important business processes in the world. We're talking about data, and you can't get data if you're not using digital communications, digital services, and digital processes. So as you've seen out in the hall, there are extraordinary innovations in the world today. There are self-driving buses, there are drones. More than a decade ago, the United States sent a robot 150 million miles away to Mars, and it landed within a football field of where we wanted it to. We communicate with it securely every day, and yet this is how ballots are delivered. This is how ballots are audited. This is how people are forced to try and have their voice heard. The problems with that are many, in fact. In the United States, as you may recall, in 2000, the Supreme Court of the United States chose the President of the United States because paper ballots were used. It's not supposed to be the Supreme Court, it's supposed to be the voters. In Afghanistan, in some places, there were more ballots than there were voters. And in other places, there were fewer votes counted than there were registered voters. In Haiti, paper ballots result in ballot boxes being spilled throughout the city. So when you're walking home at night, you wonder if your ballot ever got counted. In Mexico, people are burning ballot boxes. In some places in Africa, people are being murdered because they have to wait in line to vote by paper. Paper ballots are a very bad idea. And all of the people that are in your cities want to be counted. So innovations are happening in elections, and you need to think about digitizing, as soon as you can. You can not only use the data, you can get greater results. Everyone Counts has been innovating digital elections throughout the world, as you can see, public sector and private sector, with great success. I'll zip through these and let you read them later online. But the successes are important because not only do we increase security in elections by encrypting every ballot, but we also increase accessibility and participation. So once you're starting to digitize elections, you can do a lot to increase the validity of your elections and to increase citizen participation. Not only that, but if you're a government, if you're a city, you find the media loves negative stories. The media also really likes positive digital stories. So whether you're thinking about the voting process, the voter registration process, or checking people in at the polls, it's really important to start thinking about digitizing elections. That's also going to give you data. It's going to let you know when people are voting. It's going to let you know how people are voting. It's going to show where your voters are. That allows you to communicate better and provide much better services to voters. On election day, you can get results out to voters. People get more engaged when they're able to communicate real time about what's happening with their actual process. Some great examples of cities using digital elections, not just for voting, but for polls, come from our work in the United States in Del Mar. Just reaching out to the citizens and saying, how much money do you want to spend on the new city hall, gets results. In Honolulu, constantly going to digital elections allows more people, blind people, to vote for the first time privately and independently. Los Angeles is going to be going to digital voting for their neighborhood boards soon too, because they know it will increase turnout. So if you think about innovations, don't forget voting. Great things can happen when people have a voice. Thank you.
So we are changing how the world works in smarter cities. That's another fantastic example. So next up, we have Hans Vemmens, and Hans works as business development manager based in the Netherlands with One Spatial. Hans.
I guess I must be careful which one to select. Okay. Welcome, everyone. what I'm going to present to you today is a very obscure title. Only smart data will help smart cities to thrive on big data. Smart data is probably a misnomer in the case that data is in itself meaningless because it's basically about registering facts. So what the hell is smart data? To bring it in the light of smart cities, smart grids, I think it will actually show the importance of creating context or actually being able to deal with information instead of data. So that's the point I'm trying to make. And I do this from a One Spatial perspective. One Spatial is a company who deals with very large organizations dealing with spatial data. Typically, Ordnance Survey in the UK, US Census, but also utility companies, telco companies. And what I see also from my own experience, having been in the IT industry for over 30 years, is that most organizations sit on their data, but don't have a clue how to publish it. I'm not talking about census and that kind of stuff. That's great, that's important. But I'm talking about real existing organizations, how to deal with the need to combine data to create a holistic view on what a smart city is really about. So the point I'm going to take here is smart data, to my opinion, is data which can come out of any source, where we need basically context so we understand who it relates to, what it relates to, but also where it occurs and when it occurred. And as you actually could see from the different presentations already, you always see a map to allow to create this context. And this is what I'm focusing on now. So if you look at big data, we collect a vast amount of data. And as I said, data in itself is meaningless unless you add meaning to it and context to it. So in order to be able to analyze it and visualize it, you need to understand what you're working with. So in the end, it's about who, what, where, and when, to be able to answer the real questions, why and how. Why it's important. And this is really the area of knowledge management. And what you also see is a threshold where we actually move off systems and really have to deal with humans, because in the end it's still a human who needs to make that decision. So smart data is about meaningful data, information. It needs to be accurate, so I need to understand the data quality. I need to clean it up. If relevant, I need to acquire additional data to make more sense out of it. And in the end, I need to be able to act on it, because ultimately I started from a goal why I needed the data in the first place. And as I said, everything which happens in a smart city environment deals with this spatio-temporal context, because everything happens somewhere at some point in time. In reality, this is a philosophical discussion. We live in a 3D space, and adding time to that is really what we have and how we can relate to each other. Because if I was in the other room, I couldn't talk to you. And it also is about having the existing infrastructure, which is already available in many, many cities, and sometimes still packed in silos, not accessible. And on the other hand, the whole range of sensor data, which need to be brought together. In the end, also big data is about data quality, data governance, and all these aspects. Coming from several sources, as I said, so I won't develop on this one. But in the end, what you must be able to do is work, it's a bit slow, work with information based on information models and rules, independent of the technology being deployed, to understand how you actually are going to deal with that data, that intelligent, smart data. And what we do specifically in this area, help organizations to deal with this whole workflow from planning up to publishing this information. So if you want to know more, this is how to get in touch with me. and let's go for smart data. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Hans. Next up, we have Georgie van Kuyk. I hope I pronounced your name correctly there, Georgie. Georgie's COO of a company called Red Ninja, based in Liverpool in the UK. Georgie.
Thank you. So, hello. I would like to share our experiences of a project called LIFE, which is where we very much harness city data in Liverpool to enhance citizen services, and in this case, enhance the ambulance services. So let me start by placing it into context. So I'm from a company, Red Ninja, and we develop bespoke software and hardware solutions that will help people to live longer and happier in their own homes. So by that rationale, we started the project LIFE, and we very much started it by addressing this target, 8 minutes. So this number is the target that the UK government gave to the ambulance services across the UK. So within, after you make an emergency phone call, within 7 minutes, the ambulances have to arrive at the emergency scene. The problem, however, is that quite often they're not actually making that target. And people are remaining exposed on the streets after accidents and stuff. Over last year alone, we saw 160% rise in ambulance delays over 2015. So this is a massive problem. Of course, we wanted to look at solutions that could actually help ambulances to get to the emergency scenes quicker. The NHS said 2 years ago now, last year, that in order to increase the survival rate by 12%, which is significant, we actually have to get it down to 5%. So it's to 5 minutes. So it's 3 minutes reduction, which is obviously significant. And besides that, because often ambulances are, of course, speeding up, they're not slowing down, understandably. You've got significant crashes as well every day. So all in all, massive problems. So this is obviously what we would like to see. Lovely clear roads, but as we all know, often it's, of course, this. So how do we solve this problem? So we started a project which was funded by the UK government, actually, with a consortium where we really looking to develop a new solution for ambulance drivers in order to reduce their response times. So what are we actually doing? We're developing a new route finding tool for ambulance vehicles that's operated on a city level. So it really needs to be a top-down operation, if you like, that will practically clear the route for ambulances, but also reroute the other traffic. So imagine an ambulance vehicle go through a certain emergency scene. You clear the route proactively, so you work with the traffic system to create a clear route, and you reroute all the other traffic in order to minimize delays. That's what we want to work towards. So how are we going to do this? Or are we doing this? First of all, we started with understanding the route choices and actually the behavior of drivers, because often it's instinct, isn't it? You can give them all kinds of lovely GPSs and route finding applications, but often when it comes down to it, it's instinct in terms of choosing left, right, choosing the routes to take. We are co-creating a more effective route finding tool with them, so we really understand, listening to the drivers to see where we can add value and where, what areas of their job effectively we should not touch and just leave as it is. In terms of harnessing the data, which obviously key is part of his talk, is that we harness the traffic data from the council and the data from the ambulance service to develop a new tool that will practically clear the route of ambulance vehicles in both Liverpool and Manchester. And of course we develop route optimization techniques to do that in the best possible way with a trial. So in short, for this project, LIFE, we started by really diving into what the end user needs, understanding the end user, i.e. the ambulance drivers, integrated city data, the traffic data, with the ambulance data, and are now building a route optimization tool in order to save more lives. Because if we can crack that 8-minute target, hopefully even that 5-minute target, then we can indeed save more lives. So that's the aim. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Georgie. Very tangible example there of literally improving quality of life and death. Next up, we have Matthias AB. Matthias is CEO of Dismo. And off you go. Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Right. So here we go. Dismo, just to explain the world, comes from digital gizmos. So it's about digital things after all, which seems to be a contradiction in a certain sense. So we try to give the Internet of Things actually the interface of things. Now, what does that mean? If you think about it, many of you here in the hall are working on sensor and actor networks, on sensors, hardware, all kinds of things that need to be deployed and run. And then on the next level, of course, there is those huge, massive amount of ICT equipment that kind of gives you big data. So you collect all the data, bring it up to that level, you apply analytics to it in order to kind of, as we heard, make sense out of that. And then on the top level, of course, and this is what this is all kind of being done for, this is the user. The user is the person who kind of then needs and wants to have access to that data and do something with it. And if you think about it from a user's perspective, all these huge, massive deployments are not really visible. They just see the results. They have kind of something in front of them with which they try to kind of make sense out of what's going on. So you're now going to be part of a global statistics that I'm doing for 2 years now. Let me ask you, who has seen the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise? Who does remember that? Please raise your hand. So yeah, you're about the average 80 to 90% of people in the Western world remember that movie. And then if I ask them what really they remember, out of a 90 minutes thriller, it's 20 seconds. This is where he does that thing, right? And this is an interesting question now. Why do we just remember this specific part? Well, this is the one of the best known user interfaces, you could say. And why do we love it so much? Why is it so interesting? Why is it so kind of attractive? Why do we remember that? We believe the reason for that is because it's what we call a natural user interface. There is no abstraction. If I kind of want to move around, rotate this thing here, then I can just do that. I can also kind of go in and I can go out again. And if I put another piece of sticky note on top of that, then these will move along. This needs no explanation. This is natural, right? This is what we, as I say, understand by having a natural user interface, allowing you to move around things, to rotate them, to stack them, just to do that thing, right? So this is what we're kind of working on, or what we've been working on for 6 years now. And there are a few more important things about the thing. So one of them is, if you think about how dashboards, and this is usually the answer you get from big data providers. Yeah, we have that dashboard, right? You can configure that, or maybe a developer can configure that. So is this 45 seconds? Then I'm running badly out of time. Did it start in the right moment? Okay. I'm skipping that. Modular is important. Expandable, you start with little and you grow to a lot. How do you get from data to insights? You share. So you need to be able to kind of have some things here, push them over there, get them from there, put them on my laptop, and just move data around. Sharing is important because you collaboratively want to figure out things after all. Let me nevertheless, there's 11 seconds, quickly show you that video, because this is really the fastest way I can describe these things. So contextualize data, just move it over, add content, then pick some data, bring it in, do some analysis, and just really kind of by moving around things, combine a visualizer, get a scatter diagram, put the lens on top of it, which is kind of overlays. So this is all natural. This is like physical things, after all, and helps you to better understand the data you're working on. This is what we call docking. So you can combine these things into producing more important and complex things, like sending an SMS if some value goes across the line. And in the end, then, this is how you push something onto someone else's desk. So I'll skip this one. It has an open API. If you're interested in doing your own, please contact. After all, what it is all about is interact with your data instead of staring at it, right? And if you're interested in getting more information, of course, we are going to be around. And let me just show you our Twitter address and my email address. So thank you very much. Just need to re-establish. Sorry about that.
Thank you for that, Matthias. And again, I'm sure if anybody wants to follow up with any of the speakers, you can do that after the session as well. So next up, we have Samuel Ibbott. Samuel is Deputy Public Affairs Director with the Environmental Industries Commission in the UK. Sam.
My glamorous assistant is just getting the presentation ready. Okay, that doesn't look right, but it's fine, I'm sure. My name's Sam. I work for an organisation called the Environmental Industries Commission. We are a London-based trade association for the environmental technologies and services sector. I'm here today to speak to you briefly about some work we've been doing around the potential for smart technologies to help cities meet their core environmental challenges, so air pollution, water leakage, carbon emissions reductions, waste and recycling, and so on. We published a report, which you could see too big and now can't see at all, in December last year, called Getting the Green Light, Will Smart Technology Clean Up City Environments? And this was really the first study of its kind, we think, that really looked at the potential for smart to deal with specifically environmental challenges, but also the potential for the market around that. Sorry. Sorry about this. I think I'm down the bottom somewhere. Yes. It's on my screen now anyway, so I know what's going on at least. So yeah, we published this report about a year ago now. And as I say, it was to really understand the potential for the market. This report here we go. To understand the potential for the market and also the barriers and the barriers to and the opportunities for growth. As we've heard in a number of presentations throughout this Congress, cities are growing, cities are going to continue to grow. And as our urban populations become more dense, the environmental challenges they face become more acute. I won't go into this slide in too much detail, but basically we did some analysis around the top 10 cities in the UK based on population size and how well they were doing in making their contribution to meeting various legislated targets for reduction in environmental pollution, either national targets or EU set targets. I won't go into too much detail on the report because I haven't got much time, but in short, the report concluded that the market for environmentally focused smart solutions is a new and relatively immature market, but one which we believe has shown a significant amount of potential for growth. Secondly, we found that real-world evidence of the impacts of the implementation of environmentally focused smart solutions is limited and dissipated. We often hear, and there are many exhibitors in this conference, I'm sure, where their technology could or should do something rather than it has or it will. There's been a lot of challenges around finding effective business models and being able to implement, particularly at a city-wide scale, many of these technologies. Thirdly, we believe that the market will develop faster and costs come down quicker if there is greater standardization across the industry, and we've heard from many speakers across this Congress who are working on those standards. So we've seen some real development in the last 12 months since we published our report. And finally, we think there is some benefit to smaller scale rollouts when city-wide rollout is challenging. So testing a technology across a university campus or something like that, for example, rather than it being an all or nothing approach if you either roll it out across the city or you don't roll it out at all. Just to say, because our report was published a year ago now, we've published a short update pamphlet which just shows some policy and regulatory developments over the last 12 months that we believe will continue to support the growth of this market. I have copies of this, so please do come and grab me afterwards if this is of interest. And finally, talking about the potential for this market. Our analysis predicts that by 2020, the UK smart cities market for environmental technologies and services, also smart environmental technologies and services, will be worth £6.1 billion, and this will feed into a global market worth $92 billion. And just to say, this is specifically for environmentally focused smart solutions, not the smart city market as a whole, which is, of course, much larger. So at the Environmental Industries Commission, we feel that we act as the lead champion and interconnector of this industry. In 2016, we're going to be continuing our work in this area, and we'll be developing a database of real-world smart sustainability case studies to help spread best practice much more quickly. As I was saying earlier, we found the market is very, very disparate and small pockets, and we kind of want to bring that together to show that actually this is something that's starting to build momentum. We will continue to lobby governments and other policymakers for a favourable policy and regulatory framework that will continue to support the development of this market. And finally, through our membership, we're a membership organisation, a corporate membership organisation, so companies join us. Through our membership, we want to connect technology manufacturers with one of the largest networks in the world of engineering and planning consultants and smart city master planners. And really, the outcome of all this is to build a long-term, commercially successful market for environmentally focused smart technologies and solutions. So if any of your technologies are feed into any of this area and around meeting environmental challenges, please do come and see me afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Sam. So we're on the home straight now. Only 3 more presentations to go. Next up, we have Munish Khetrapal. Munish is Managing Director of Solutions for Smart and Connected Communities in Cisco.
Thanks. We talked about the market and whether they're proven facts or not, and we'll spend a bit of time talking about what we estimated the market in the last 3 years to be actually a $3 trillion market. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Okay, I'm using the wrong arrow. So it's if you think about cities being digitized, and digitization is really sensors, devices, and things connected to the network and internet, but also people and all the apps we talked about in the panel in the last 40-50 minutes. It's really a $3 trillion opportunity, and we broke this down across 41 use cases, 250 cities across 10 years, and various examples. So I'll take an example that Stefano talked about from a lighting standpoint, and if you take LEDs and the upgrade of LEDs, you're looking at about an average of $20 to $25 per month is the expense for a city per light pole. When you think about the traditional lights, you think about the operating expenses, you think about the upgrades and all the other costs. Now, if you network that LED and add multiple sensors to it, you can bring that down to $6 or $7 per light pole per month. So you take $13 per light pole per month, you multiply it by 250 cities and the number of light poles, that's $22 billion. And similarly, we broke this whole strategy down, whole set of use cases down, and lots of apps we talked about today, open apps, and whether it's Airbnb models or Uber models that create a shared economy and infrastructure that creates a whole incremental $1.9 trillion kind of economy. And this is all happening because of the data and how things are evolving. But cities practically, and we all face it on a daily basis. Cisco, we address about 1,000 cities globally now this year. And we always have agencies that are not collaborating, the data is not being shared, information is not moving. And on the other hand, cities don't have budgets. So we want to implement smart city technologies, and how do you create that value and look at propositions. On the other hand, there's also a lot of issues around security, and if you get the data, what happens, what data should be open, what data shouldn't be open, what will happen to the safety of the city. So there are lots of questions that are being asked, and we constantly face those questions. So about 2.5 years back, we came up with an architecture which now we've implemented across 45 cities, and a few of these cities, you'll see if you come to the Cisco booth, we have the cities participating in it, because really it's a partnership with the city, where they started saying that we're going to take parking, traffic, lighting, water, waste management, and all the other infrastructure facilities that a city needs to provide to the citizens for consumption, and we're going to consolidate that with a common Wi-Fi network. And I like to use the analogy that most of our corporations, large corporations, when we work in functional silos, but we don't have a problem. The different departments don't have a problem sharing a common building, or common HR, or common legal. And similarly, infrastructure, if you start thinking about a consolidated network that brings all of this data and information together, people don't mind sharing that because it creates value, it creates a reduction in total cost of ownership. I lived in Hong Kong for a few years, and some of the inputs from Hong Kong, the CIO of Hong Kong city was talking about 21 different cables and infrastructure that in one corners area, in terms of environmental sensors or parking sensors. So if you use a consolidated network, you create a reduction in savings. So that's one aspect of it. But the more important aspect is not connecting the sensors and people and devices and using different kinds of technologies, but then bringing that data and trying to provide it for the right set of users to be used in the right set of way. And that's really the city infrastructure management capability that we are looking at implementing in many of these cities, where if you think about a citizen, he can start using environmental data to create completely new experiences. And there was a Princeton graduate that reached out to me. So we had an announcement about smart lighting infrastructure and how environmental data can be collected. He has a live fitness app, and he said, you know what, 49 cents a month, I'll charge a user. When he goes out for a jog in the day, he can decide which path has better environmental sensing and capability, so that you can make those choices for health. And people don't mind spending 49 cents for their health a month. And so the whole infrastructure starts creating new value, and the data starts creating new value. Similarly, if you take the data from a business standpoint and you say, I have a people flow, I have a monitoring, I have information going, how do I start consuming that data and staff my whole retail so that I can maximize the customer experience? So there are various different things that data can do and create, and really you need to have an open framework to do that. So pretty much what we've implemented in Kansas City, Adelaide, Hamburg, now we're starting to get results of that and the kind of value that we have created. So please feel free to visit our booth. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Munish. And next up, we have Katya Serova. Katya is Vice President and co-founder of HABIDATUM. Katya.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to start with the following statement. Cities today are incomprehensible. They are no longer special objects, but space-time processes. And their complexity grows, and so does our unawareness. What should we do about that? I would like to introduce one of the approaches to the analysis of cities we're presenting here at our booth in HABIDATUM platform. It's called Interactive Space-Time Visual Analysis. The idea of it came from that strange medical research. So imagine the picture, the interface that medical worker sees in front of him while analyzing the body. So the body is presented, human body is presented as 3D object consisting of dozens of volume elements. These volume elements are called voxels. Each of them has a position in this volume and additionally a characteristic. By interacting with this visualization, the medical worker can analyze, can for example tell bones from muscles by filtering the characteristics of these voxels. So we thought that what if we could apply this technique to urban analysis? Moreover, what if we could play with the dimensions of the voxels and add virtual ones to physical ones? So that's how we came to space-time visual analysis, where we also have these voxels, and their position is defined by the geography and the position in time. So each voxel, for example, can say what is the amount of people sitting here at this point of time at this session. And another voxel nearby will tell what is the amount of people sitting in another session at this point of time. And at the same time, another voxel in this very same visualization will help us analyze what will be the change of concentration in this very same hall at another point of time. So while interacting with this interface, the analyst can deal with processes instead of just aggregations. What will it change in the way we analyze and plan cities? So we think that such approach can melt the very professional vocabulary that we use when we plan and when we analyze cities. First, we turn from one-off events to trends. We see processes instead of just aggregations. For example, we can turn from just looking at socio-demographic statistics that is very often very far away of how actual city really operates, to lifestyle analysis and to detecting behavioral patterns. We can then see places not as parts of space, but as parts of processes, as parts of space-time trajectories. For example, in our analysis in the city of Denver, we found out that a cultural complex there is first of all competing not with other cultural venues, but with sports clubs, with offices, with schools. It's competing for its position in the lifestyle, for time of people who are coming there. And moreover, we can also analyze time, we can visualize time, which is a very large and yet underestimated asset of urban development. What we found out in our worldwide analysis called Chronotope City was that time, from 40 to 60% of time, space is not in use. And if we imagine that we can increase this time use for 5 or even couple of percent, that will increase the efficiency of use and the revenues we get from space dozens of times. So these are just several examples of how this could change the way we, these are just some of the examples of how this could change the way we see and the way we plan cities. The applications go far beyond the examples that I've just said. But what is clear enough is that this is a very important transition. The transition has already begun, and we are happy to be a part of it. So thank you, and please come visit and see the visualization at our booth.
Thank you for that, Katya. And now time has flown by. We're now to the last, but by no means least, to Carlos Ferrero. Carlos is CEO of DotoPen, which is the company behind App Circus, for any of you who were at our session yesterday on the app hack. Carlos.
Thank you, Mary. Let's see if I can get my computer hooked up, and we'll be up in a jiffy. 3, 2, 1, close enough. Okay, colors. We got purple. I like purple. Yeah, purple's good. I'll go with purple. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Carlos Ferreiro. I would like to talk to you a little bit about maybe another side of smart cities. We've been seeing a lot of presentations, and you've been seeing a lot of companies that have been talking about technology. There's a lot of talk about data. There's something about the other end of all of this, which is obviously the citizens. And the question is, how do we engage citizens? We at .open have been managing ecosystems for some time now. We've been especially concerned with the app industry and how do we bring some maturity, because as you know, this industry is very emerging and there's a lot of actually waste that is happening in talent. Basically, around 90% of the apps never make enough money to recover their investment. So that gives some food for thought. And another piece of trivia: there's over 2 million apps in each store. So anyway, our activity includes events and competitions around the world. Since 2009, we've done nearly 200 events in over 80 cities around the world, and we've learned a few things around doing this. And basically, it's that citizens, we are just problematic people. Okay, maybe our problems are not the same if you're in Kampala that if you are in San Francisco, but basically we're people with problems, endless problems. And endless problems mean endless opportunities. And opportunities that obviously cannot be harnessed by the current talent of the existing company. So we need to foster entrepreneurship and do that at scale. So our smart living contribution, because it goes obviously beyond cities, is it focused on engaging and empowering citizens, both to build solutions and then to use them. I'll focus on the first. So to create solutions is to engage ecosystems to incubate apps at scale. And we do that by basically first moving beyond what we would say is the technology industry. If you want to solve problems, you need to talk to people who actually know about problems. And that means that if you want to talk about water, you need to talk about people who know about water, there's passionate agencies, nonprofits, and experts in all of our cities that know about our problems, but we also know about committed citizens. Also is about not only engaging developers, but there's a lot of people who really know about and are passionate about their problems and would like to offer some solutions. So how do you move beyond those? The last point is mainly of our engagement is around in the form of hackathons, these sort of gatherings when we just play around with technology, and that's fantastic because it's so exciting and we're all so energized by them. But in the end, it's kind of frustrating because none of those projects hardly ever move forward. So they just end there. And hackathons should be the beginning of something instead of the end. So the question is, how do we scale entrepreneurship and move into mass incubation? So just a quick note, we are here presenting the finalists of the Smart City App Hack. It's using a methodology that basically includes 11 cities around the world. We've been doing pitches for the last 2 days. The methodology that we use basically starts with defining problems well. Maybe we have a hackathon at each one of these cities, but basically what we do is we sustained the support for developers over a period of 4 to 6 months with mentors that allow them to basically build their idea and construct a final app, a final solution that can be used by citizens. That is local experts and also global mentors. In the Smart City App Hack, we've had 5 challenges. These hackathons, workshops, and online mentoring support have produced that we engaged nearly 6,500 participants around the world and 164 apps at the end of the process, again in 11 cities ranging from San Francisco and New York to Barcelona and Dubai. So we are looking now to engage cities and other partners for our upcoming 2016 Smart City World Hack. It will move beyond apps. So basically, there are several ways on doing that. If you're interested in engaging entrepreneurship at scale or connecting developers to your existing technologies so they can actually incorporate them into real products and not just toy around with them, you should definitely talk to us. Again, our contribution is just to have a citizen-centric smart living solution. So thank you very much, and talk to you soon. Thanks.
Well, I can't believe, I think we've only gone over 2 minutes, which for 14 speakers is quite an achievement. So thank you, first of all, to all our speakers. What a really fantastic range of things that we can see, which, you know, when we talk about smarter cities, ultimately it comes down to doing some very practical things which can really make a difference to try and improve how services and so on are currently work, because we all know there's such potential to try and make things better. So can you all put your hands together to say thank you for the speakers and thank you everyone for coming.